What is happening? Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Episode 1 of That's How We Do, where we are tackle the most important questions within the sports gambling industry with the help of the Lobaggers in the chat. And I'm excited, very, very excited about this. This is a new series. This is a new series for hardcore sports gamblers and new gamblers in conjunction with odds.com, rolling with odds.com. Check out their new website. Their new website launched today. And we are going to talk about the most important things in the sports gambling industry. Episode 1. Can you make a living as a sports gambler? One thing that we are not going to do, one thing that we have never done, is blow smoke, play pretend, live in a dream world. Let's honestly look at this possibility and see if there's legitimacy within it. Let's break it down from every possible angle, starting bankroll, ROI, whether this will lead you to a happy life. Let's break it down with the help of the Lobaggers in the chat. And shout out to all you guys joining us. Hustle Wilson, Boston, Nick, a.k.a. Mr. Fat Fist in the house, Buzznuts, Halifax, Top Set. What a group. Dennis Garcia, Razor, Catch Caleb, Cobra Sports 609, EJV, Brooklyn, Funk Project, Tony, Brisher, Connor McLaughlin, Canascat, Corey, Kelly, Jordan Kane, Ick Schnizzle, Bob Taylor, Paco Healy, Guillermo Zertucci, Fraser Snellgrove, Brooklyn Funk Project, my man Pete, West Coast, Jeff Joseph, Jose, Nilo. The cappers in the chat are going to lead us to whether this is a possibility. Prince of the City says, I need winners. That sounds like a guy who's trying to make a living sports gambling. Bad Beat, Brett Parker, AU Rockin', Jessica Easton, Dan Kelly, Stuntman. This is a new series where we go over the most important questions in all of sports gambling. And this is the best place to start. Can you make a living if your sole income comes from sports gambling? And we'll break it down. We'll talk about who are the professional sports bettors today, what happens when you turn your hobby into a job. We'll start with my general take. We'll talk about Arthur Meade Jr.'s general take, Big Ragoo's general take, everybody's general take here. E-Rockin' saying sound, Jimmy. I think the sound is okay. The sound looks to me like it's working. Let me know if this is if we do have sound problems. Bob Taylor says, I'd say I'm a novice gambler. Goose says, I lost and lost and lost until I learned not to chase when you lose. There's Matt Randall, star of the Taint Play of the Day. Will Turpin. See, we have professional sports bettors amongst us. We have friends who make their sole living from betting on sports. In my lifetime, the bigger the role that sports gambling played in the income that I had coming in, the worse my life got. And we'll talk about how, if it's a hobby, the joys that can come from sports gambling. And also we'll talk about, if it's your living, the joys that can come from sports gambling. My general take is, yes, you can, but you will not have a happy life. When I look back at the most important sports gambling moments of my life, I go back to Chris Kunitz's overtime winner in Game 7 of the 2017 Eastern Conference Final. The swing for me in that game was life-changing. And it was more about what would have happened had the Penguins not won that game. And I can't answer that question. And I almost start sweating just thinking about what would have happened if Kunitz hadn't have scored that game winner. Nilo says, myself, if I really study, I can make some money playing. It's really only the way I can really sit and watch sports. Paul Thompson says you can't be a professional betting every race or next to every race, Jimmy, i.e. horses. All right. Let's break this down. Let's go back to Costa Rica for me. I went down to Costa Rica. I was playing $100 units. Started making a little bit more money down there. I moved up to $200 units. All right, $200 units. The ROI of a very good sports handicapper is 3%. 3% ROI. If you're making a 2% ROI, sports pros are very happy with a 2% ROI. Major syndicates, a 1 to 2% ROI is great. So let's go back to my $200 units that I had when I was in Costa Rica. And before COVID stopped, I didn't know if I was able to continue $200 units because I didn't have money coming in. There's DJ Big Boss in the house. We have legends like Big Ragu in the house who are going to help guide us through this conversation. If you are trying to make a 2% ROI, you're betting $200 units, you're trying to make $4 a bet. So if your quantity is high at $200 units, let's say you're betting 400 bets a month. 400 bets a month. If you do that math, you're risking $200,000 to bring in $4,000 a month. $4,000 a month. It is extremely challenging trying to raise a family off of $4,000 a month. If your unit size goes up to $500, you're trying to bring in $10 a bet. So let's talk about what sort of bankroll you even need to legitimately start gambling. Sports gambling to bring in a healthy enough income to raise a family, to make car payments and mortgage payments. Goose has to get his bet in at Fawner Park. Respect. Nut Flush Allen now says, make a living or not. Jimmy has and is continuing to build a family of cappers and best friends. All these names would not be here. That's very kind of you to say, Nut Flush Allen. Dan Kelly says, you can make a good living if you're a good sports bettor, if you have $1 million bankroll. Proper money management is paramount to success in sports betting. Matt Randall says, starting capital is my number one. Discipline is his number two. That is so important. Starting capital is Matt Randall's number one. So we had the legend Gas Station Sushi on the show. And Gas Station Sushi, very comfortable to explain his process and how he handles things. Gas Station Sushi said something interesting about Matt Randall, whom we have in the chat right now. He said that there's no shame in tailing, which is something we've been doing with Gas Station Sushi while we've been betting horses. He said that Matt Randall's taint play of the day, which was hitting at the highest rate of any play that we had in our show, the taint play of the day was paying his mortgage. I said that to a couple people. The very first question that came up was it paying Matt Randall's mortgage? And that brings us back to starting balance. What is your bankroll? And if I had a legitimate sized bankroll and handled my bankroll management appropriately, I would never have been in a situation where I had no idea what was going to happen to my life if Chris Kunitz hadn't scored that double overtime winner in 2017. But I didn't have a starting bankroll. And then we're going to keep talking about that. Starting bankroll. So $200 units, $500 units. It sounds like, and if we're being honest, if you want to have a sole source of income from sports gambling, that your bankroll should be $250,000. Because if you have a $250,000 bankroll, you can make bets between 1% and 3%. 1% and 3%. So your bets are $2,500 at 1%, $5,000 or $7,500 at 3%. Now, let's move into a major important part of this whole function. Major, major part of this whole function. If you start cashing those $5,000 and $7,500 bets, what's going to happen? You live happily ever after? No. You get banned, or you get booted, or your local doesn't take your action. That's what happens. You are constantly going to be searching for books that will take your action. In Vegas, you'll be cut down to $1,000 a bet. What do we know about the bookie and the giant buildings in Vegas is that they don't let you beat them. They don't let you beat them. Sports Keg in the house. Sports Keg is in the house. Sue Ridge says, we will take your bets. Will Sue Ridge take your bets at $7,500 a bet when you're up $300,000? When your bankroll goes from $250 to $550? Because it's going to ebb and flow. Sue Ridge says, we will take your bets. Who am I to say that Sue Ridge won't? I'm not going to. I'm not going to sit here and say that they won't. Dan Kelly says, I've been shut down a half dozen times. Jay from the Sports Keg. We have Jay from the Sports Keg here, who is making his living from sports betting. And I watch him do it. And is he getting joy from the stress that comes with the level of action that Jay's making? Because I tell you what's happened to me in the last little while, especially, when I was down in Costa Rica, was that I was getting so much joy out of my sports betting. So much joy out of my sports betting because at $200 a unit, I was hobby sports betting. It was a hobby for me. It wasn't changing anything. A bad month, a good month, wasn't changing my life at all. I wasn't deluded. At that point, I was gambling for all the right reasons. And what are the right reasons? To enhance your sports viewing experience. What was happening for me is that betting on sports is the greatest drug that I could possibly imagine. All I wanted to do was get home, have a drink, and watch my action and sweat buckets and sit alone in the dark freaking out. The bookie was the dealer of the drug. And the better months I had, I was just getting the drug for free. Hobby sports betting and professional sports betting can be so different. Prince of the City says, I never made more money than when I was a bookie. Keith Kaplan says, Penny Bookmaker would be good places and won't kick you out. Okay. DJ Big Boss says, just to have action, putting that on a shirt. Big Ragu says, you have to live by the minus 110. We haven't even got there yet. And we will get there. We will get to the what percent. And that the minus 110 and crushing 56%, that will be a bigger thing in our second episode next week, should you buy picks, which I'm sure is going to piss some people off in our industry. But we will get to that. Mr. Rizzo says, best drug in the world, gambling. Maito says, you need Gamblers Anonymous. I get more joy out of gambling on sports than anything else in the world. I often say that to you guys. Who needs sex and drugs when you're losing your mind over this? And that's why horse racing became my favorite sport, because you study, you build up to this 2-minute rush, and you lose your mind over when your horse makes that turn right around the clubhouse and starts rolling in the stretch. You lose your shit. It's the most exciting thing in the world. Keith Kaplan says gambling on sports is nuts. Let's talk more about that. Matt Randall says, I could not imagine putting my family on the line each and every night. And that is the difference between me not being able to eat for a day and a half, 2 days leading up to the Game 7 Senators Penguins, and sitting in the dark, screaming and yelling, having the time of your life betting sports. Walter Scott says, I used to help bookies, and being a player, my angle isn't the money, it's being right. Vite Brand B says, I would never try to make a living off betting. It's a great passive time for enjoyment. I think that's I think that will be the conclusion that we come to. Vril Video says, what is you only bet 5 games a month for large amounts and phantom bet the rest to stay frosty? There is Cynthia Paniagua in the house. Thank you for joining us, Cynthia. We are very excited to be rolling with odds.com. Big Ragu says they go up. Sportscake says there are no taking shots when this is how you pay the bills. You need a legitimate bankroll. You need to bet a nickel to a dime a game at a minimum. You take the guaranteed money whenever you can. And that was what we talked about when we talked about the $200 units and the $500 units. The $200 units, you can't possibly be a professional sports gambler. So I was in the stand-up comedy and acting industry for 20 years, and there's parallels between the stand-up comedy and acting industry and the sports gambling industry. The parallels are that people live in a dream world. The people that inhabit the business live in this dream world where they have ludicrous expectations, and the expectations will only change if you drastically change what you're doing. At $200 a pop, it is, I want to say, and I probably should, but impossible to make a living betting on sports. It is impossible, and that's where we get back to this $250,000 opening bankroll. There's Jermone Sags in the house. Thank you for joining us. Will Turpin says, for my first 6 months betting, I bet between $1.05 and $5 per bet till I was sure I understood and had the discipline to bankroll, manage, and not chase. Keith Kaplan says, a number of years back, I lost my job and played poker 5 days a week to pay my bills. Not easy, lots of stress. David Hutton says, agreed. My hat's off to you guys who make a living off of betting. So much time and so much work if you want to do it right. Marty Muerte says, multiple streams of income with betting. And Marty Muerte is bang on. And Marty Muerte that's the first lesson you learn in stand-up comedy. We talk about parallels. Is that stand-up comedy can't be your sole source of revenue. There has to be other streams coming in. Let's talk about the people who are professional sports betting right now. They are people, and there's very few of them. They're people who are writing algorithms. It's math and codes. They're not handicapping. They're not gambling. They're trying to write an algorithm that will take away the gambling. I love handicapping more than anything. There's nothing that excites me more. When I wake up, I pushed it back now that it's just horses till 6:30 in the morning. But when I was waking up at 4:40 in the morning in Costa Rica, I wasn't waking up upset. I was waking up excited. I love the handicapping process. And that is the difference between the hobby sports bettors and the professional sports bettors, is that they're writing an algorithm. Most professional sports bettors don't even watch the games. They're just trying to beat that opening number, and they're done. Don Mago said, thank you for talking about this, Jimmy. Thank you for joining this discussion, and it's you guys who are going to lead us through this discussion. It's the Lobaggers. Wesco says, loving the sport that I gamble on is what makes me sharp. Says, I am an options trader, and I manage my risk so my trades don't keep me up at night. The Icon says, I always recommend saving a bit every month to put down opening bankroll, that you're willing to lose and practice bankroll management. Dan Kelly says, to make a living on sports, you have to have multiple books so you are always shopping for the best lines, constantly hedging. If you are just taking what your book gives you, you are too far behind. That is so well put. and we see Dan Kelly. Now here's Maxwell Smart in the house. Maxwell Smart, during the college basketball season, he knows he's got to make not only his living then, but his living for the year. Great to have you in the house, Max. And I love watching how Max has to handle this. We watch Dan Kelly bet basketball. He always says, this is my opening bet. If the score is this at the half, I'm betting the other side. He's always looking to middle and hedge. And Dan Kelly is the best basketball capper that I've ever seen. Chris Tate in the house. Gerardo Hernandez says, why not be a professional sports bettor and enjoy the games? Is it possible? Baccio Guido in the house. Maxwell Smart, going back to what Max does, says you stay a day ahead of the lines, create your own lines, have a couple models that hit 58%, and access to watch and research. Here's the sports kick. Somebody who we all watch doing this every day. You almost get to a point where you envy the guy with a 9-to-5 job that spends a dime on the board over the weekend. If you lose, you get up on Monday and go make money. That's such an important piece. That is such an important piece of this puzzle. All right. Let's talk more about what Sports Keg just said. And then I'll come back down to the comments. But he says, you almost get to a point where you envy the guy with a 9-to-5 job that spreads a dime on the board over the weekend. If you lose, you get up on Monday and go make that money. People love to bet on sports. And they dream of being able to make a living from betting on sports. People also love to eat. But you can't make a living just eating. People who love to eat generally make a show about eating. They have hijinks and tits. And somebody pays them money for that show, and then all of a sudden, they get paid money to eat. And that brings us back to what I am doing. I'm trying to make a living betting on sports by betting on sports publicly in an entertaining fashion while keying on to honesty and transparency. And then hopefully I can make a living betting on sports. We'll see how that goes. But am I expecting the bookie to pay my rent each month? No. And we'll talk about how that might be able to change and how we might be able to make that change. Lanil Land says, I think totals on NBA are always magic at 200. Winning at an 89% clip. If you're sorry, you get respect at 100. Matt Randall says, you look for value. Keith Kaplan says, I bet sports for about 27 years now, and the best way, in my opinion, is to not volume bet. Best to have a max 1 to 3 plays a day if that's it. Prince of the City says, basically the mob does that. The revenue streams are talking about having different avenues of income. The revenue streams are gambling, drugs, etc. It's like they diversifies their portfolio. Jamon Sachs says, betting is for fun. Naflashan says, I always have my bankroll completely separate from our family finances. So did I. But I slipped up. And I needed Kunitz to score that goal, or I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And I'm ashamed to say it. All right. And L in the house says, people get crushed in baseball because they're getting bad numbers. The overnight lines get hammered by the modelers, and all the value is extracted by the morning. We watch Aunt L do that easily. One of the best baseball cappers that I've ever seen. Aunt L and Twatty Latte changed how I looked at betting on baseball, because at one point, Twatty Latte, I think he was at this point, and I can't remember exact numbers, but I think he was at about 600 bets at that point. It was before, it was early in the year. And he said he'd bet on 12 underdogs. And I was shocked. And Ant was there for it. And Ant said, I rarely bet on underdogs. But he beats the line. He beats the favorites. He gets it at minus 160. When we wake up in the morning, it's minus 210. It's minus 210. All right. Dan Kelly says there's a reason why casinos are big, beautiful wonders of modern architecture. And it ain't because gamblers win. There's Twatty Latte right there. I didn't even see Twatty in the chat. There he is. Watching Twatty and L beat baseball was eye-opening. And it didn't include plus lines. And it didn't include run lines. It didn't include minus 1.5, which is what I'd be doing to beat NHL. Twatty Latte says, exactly, Jimmy, multi-revenues in the field that you love. Son Dizzle in the house. Great comedian. And Son Dizzle's best years of his career weren't from live stand-up. They were from film and television. He had different revenue streams coming in. Goose says, we all love betting on sports. No, one day to do this for a living and be rich, but 98% won't. So just enjoy this awesome high you get when you have action on a game. And that's when this show ends, that'll be when the circle becomes complete. That's when the circle will be back to the start. And I agree. Maxwell Smart says, I'd rather bet $1,500 $100 plays than 15 $1,000 plays, but that's through experience. Very, very interesting. Marty Muerte says, sports betting is still a talent just like any profession. Put in the work. Topset says the answer is yes, you can. Like every professional, it's the details. Details. Dan Kelly's approach and solid 56% record. West Coast says, great words from Gas Station Sushi. In life and handicapping, we're just a product of our experiences. Wow. All right. Anthony Dahlia says, Luke, one of the LoBaggers, mentioned nothing is a lock. Bet for value lines. Last night, William Hill added a number of NFL draft props, one being Tua picked in top 10 minus 600. Spencer Penny saying, amazing info in Jimmy's chats. All the people here are amazing. Because we're all working we have a common goal. And we need to defeat the juice. You know, we talk about Leche Elo's bookmakers at the end of each episode. And Leche Elo's bookmakers can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. At where I stand right now in my sports gambling, Leche Elo's bookmakers means I work as hard as I possibly can to get as close to excellence as I can in sports handicapping so that I don't lose to the bookies. So the bookies don't beat me. And then I get this incredible high that I get from sports gambling for free. All right. Let's keep seeing what's going on in the chat here. Nutflush Allen says, bottom line is if you are capping the games and getting the best lines with all your homework and keep the discipline, you can enjoy some great extra money. Son Dizzle says, important piece of the puzzle. All right. Jeff Arp, what's happening? Great to see you. My poker buddy in the house. Richard Lee says, I've been retired for 4 years and gambling is my income now. Research and watching and listening to Jimmy and everybody in here has helped me enormously. Stuntman says, I like the first 4 weeks of NCAA football, big parlays. Big Roo says, books will always have the edge over the public, period. You have to know the nuances and experiences. You have to know the nuances, and experience will help you recognize the pitfalls and opportunities when they come. Anthony Dahlia says, oh, going top 10. Okay, we're talking about the top 10 draft right now. Sports Cake says, you need an unfathomable amount of discipline to do this full time. It's a lot like a Texas Hold'em tournament. You are constantly avoiding landmines. You need zero emotion. Be a robot. Matt Randall says, I've been a sports bettor for about 17 years now. And 3 years ago, when I became a LoBagger, I became addicted to capping with my friends, all of you. It drove me to succeed each and every day. And that is another extremely important message, and it's coming from Matt Randall, star of the team play of the day, is that You need to be getting joy out of this. And every time where the income level coming into my life has been crucial to my life, the joy dissipates. And we heard Sports Keg envying people who wake up Monday 9 to 5 and make money and then get to have fun gambling. It's a very, very, very important piece here. Jermone Sag says gambling should be fun. If not, it can really do a number on you. Look, well, I mean, Jermone Sag, I don't. Gambling has only added to LoShack's life. And it was a completely different set of circumstances that threw Pete for a loop. It was trusting friends and lending money. So let's not get that twisted. It was not sports gambling that had anything but positives for the legend Pistol Pete LoShack. It was trusting people and lending money. So let's keep that. Marco Lou says, I remember you were a big parlay guy. How have you changed since those days? And what I was doing in those days, and things change, obviously, was I was going for big scores. So I didn't have enough money to have a unit size that would, if I hit 56%, bring any positivity to my life. So I would go for big scores. So I focused on future bets and I focused on parlays, because the only way things were going to change is if I went for big scores. So that gets us back to how can you get that $250,000 bankroll? And I'll tell you how I'm going to try to do that over the next little while. And we're going to do that on my show. And we're going to start doing it often. Is I want to win satellites to big handicapping competitions. And most of that will be in horse racing. But I will also be in the super contest this year. So I'll be down in Vegas in August signing up for that. I mean, that's just $1,500 buy-in. That's not quite big enough. But like the Horse Players World Series, we're going to start on my show, because my show is now Thursday to Sunday and it's just horses during the day. We're going to start hammering those satellites to get into big spots where we can get the big scores. Marco Lou's right. I was spinning in circles, and that's the reason why we're having this show right now, is so that we don't spin in circles and that we have realistic expectations. Realistic expectations, and don't live in fucking dream world. But I was spinning in circles playing parlays. I was going for giant scores. The people telling me that what I was doing was ridiculous were other handicappers who were selling picks for a living. They weren't betting for a living. And we'll get into that in episode 2. But that was the heat I was taking for that. It wasn't from... I was trying to get a big score. I was trying to get a bankroll. And Marco Lou, you're absolutely right. I was spinning in circles. All right. Scott John, I love you too. Sun Dizzle says, Jimmy, you said it best. Different streams of income is important in order to do what we love to do. Paul Thompson says, will you sleep well tonight? Well, Paul Thompson, it's interesting that you bring that up, because before COVID ruptured all of our sports, I couldn't sleep at night. When I was down in Costa Rica, even though my unit size was just $200, I couldn't sleep at night. I was going to have to cut down my unit size because I didn't have income coming. Now we're just betting horses all day. At first, I had a great, opening 4 days, but my first full 7 days a week straight was difficult. I picked up 1.3K last week in front of you guys, and I slept like a fucking baby, man. All I want to be doing, the only thing I want to be doing, is betting on horses with you guys. That's the only thing I want to be doing. So I've got to figure out a way to have somebody pay me just to do a live horse betting show. Now, when sports comes back, obviously I love sports, but that's the only thing I want to do. That's the only thing I want to study. I'm studying the draft like an animal because we're going live on the odds.com YouTube page, and I'm excited to be going live with, David Boston, 8th overall pick in the 99 draft, led the NFL in receiving yards 2001. We have Tay Stevens, award-winning adult film star, Big Ragu, DJ Big Boss, Trot Wham, Whale Capper, Al Mack. All these cappers that I can't wait to share the screen with. But I don't want to be studying the draft. I want to be studying tomorrow's horse action so badly that I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Tua can go wherever he fucking pleases. That fucking China doll's not going to last 2 years in the NFL. Okay. Sorry, got a little hungry. Mississippi Kid says you're doing an NFL draft show tomorrow. Yeah, we're doing a big one, and I'm very excited about it. But what do I want to do? I just want to be betting on horses right now because it's the fun. I've had more fun than I've ever had in my entire life capping the horses with you guys. All right. Jeff Joseph says it's different if you have nothing to lose except a bankroll. I've been on both sides, and there is another side. If you have important elements of life to lose, the game changes. He's absolutely right. Catch Caleb says, can you work full-time and actually put in enough time to ever win consistently? Yes, you can, Catch Caleb, but you have to focus. Do you notice Max, who beats college basketball every year, only caps college basketball? I mean, he does a tiny bit of women's college softball, but, he does a tiny bit of that, but that's just, he loves softball so much. But you have to focus on certain things. I remember when I went down to Costa Rica, Drew Martin was like, for college football, he's like, just pick one conference and that's it. Only focus on that one conference. If you have a full-time job, you can't spread yourself thin, and spreading yourself thin is something I've done a lot. Al Cervic said it's about discipline, units, and self-control for me. If you chase, you are doomed. Mental strength and weakness will be tested and exposed. God, that's so good. That's so good from Al. Some of your comments from you guys today have been spectacular. There's another one. It's about discipline, units, and self-control. If you chase, you are doomed. Mental strength and weakness will be tested and exposed. Paul Thomas says, I hope you're not going to rob people of their hard-earned cash, Jimmy. Paul Thompson, what is that supposed to mean? Paul Thompson, can you add on that? I'm not a bookie. I've never sold a pick in my life. I've never asked anybody for a cent ever once. I will never ask anybody for a cent. The fuck are you talking about, Paul Thompson? The fuck are you talking about, Paul Thompson? God, we cap horses together every day. That could end pretty fucking soon, Paul Thompson. The fuck are you talking about? You better explain what the fuck you're talking about, Paul. I mean, when we're not betting on sports and my adrenaline's not going off, things get pretty fucking serious, Paul. Dan Kelly says, what you and Pete have done is bring high character and honesty to this business that's full of people that are looking to take advantage of people's greed and weakness. That's very, very kind to say that, Dan. And we've learned from Pete. The fuck is Paul Thompson talking about? Can I get I need to know what Paul Thompson's talking about so I can relax and we can finish off this show. Jesus Christ, Paul. I know you're in the UK. What's it, 5 a.m? You've been doing rails all night? What's wrong with you, Paul? I'm going to get someone to sign up for something, yes or no? Paul, what are you talking about? You want all on this site to sign up? Jesus, Paul, what happened to you? Who beat the shit out of you, Paul? Who hurt you, Paul? What the fuck happened to you, Paul? I will never ask you guys for anything. I will never sell you anything. ever in my entire life. I'm never going to sell you a pick. I'm never asking you to buy shit. I'm never asking you to donate shit. I'm never going to have a, what the fuck, what's that stream called where you're like, hey, give me this amount of money a month and you can watch me try to put my balls in my mouth. Jesus Christ, Paul. Fucking Jesus, Paul. We cap horses together every day and you think what? Sign up? Yeah. I never wanted a cent from anybody ever. But I wanted to get paid to do this. And I'm very thankful that odds.com came around to allow me to do this every day. You saw my 2-year-old daughter, didn't you, Paul? Not just fighting for me, man. Paul wants to cap horses with us every day. What happened to you, Paul? All right, I'm going to calm down. The Maharishi says, I deliver the mail 50 hours a week and still make a substantial supplemental income capping and playing DFS. Marco Lu says, pro tips are always concentrating on a niche. Basketball seems to be the favorite of the pros because the lines are never perfect, whereas pro leagues, the lines are almost perfect. Rod Zawacki. He's a guy, Rod Zawacki. And Jeff Arp says he's a troll. He's not a troll. I cap horses with Paul Thompson every day. That's probably coming to an end. Rod Zawacki says you have to be a very, very selective on your bets. You want to cherry pick games when it comes to betting. And I took a lot of shit for the quantity of action I was betting in Costa Rica. But I remember I had a couple real bad months in a row. And I remember talking to Max. I was like, Max, these guys think that $7,000 or $8,000 is going to change anything for me. It doesn't change anything. I don't go out to a nicer restaurant. I don't go out to a shittier restaurant. It doesn't change anything. And I wanted to change anything. West Coast. Okay. Marty Muerte says, I play Delta Downs only. It's a zone. I hit an IRS ticket every weekend. Handicap, track, horses, trainer, jockey, and who gets the money. Respect. Brooklyn Funk Project says, might I suggest sometimes you have to step away from the status quo to get where you can be further ahead. Change the strategy that everyone uses. Watch the changes plus or minus. All right. Sports Keg says unit counts are a must. I learned that from Jim. I will always have transparent unit counts on my live shows literally because of Jimmy and Pete. Rod Zawacki says, I've never asked anybody for a cent either. That's not why I got into this business, for the love of sports. All right. Sorry, I'm moving. Okay. Michael DeMaria says, hey, Jimmy, just start watching you and Dom and the boys. Great fun. Appreciate it. Thank you. Much love to you. All right. Brigham Funkbird says, call it Paul Thompson now. Okay. All right. I know. I was just shocked by that because I thought Paul and I were friends. What the fuck? I don't know what happened to him. Must have had a bad 24 hours. Hey, at least, okay. Sorry, let me back up. Sorry. The comments are coming in fast and furious. Okay. Much love, A. Hilly. Much love to you. Jeff Joseph says, in my gambling life, I have found one of the most important aspects is to have a support system in place. It does make a difference. It does. Al Cervic says, chasing isn't only for losing days. Taking a winning day and giving half back, trying to go on Sunday Night Football just to keep rolling is chasing. Richard Lee says, the best thing I've learned from the whole Lobag family is discipline and don't chase. It helped me a lot. There's G Sauce in the house. Great to see you. Don McGo says, sorry, Jimmy, do you believe in intuition? Do you think that can be implemented? Yes. Yes. I love handicapping. I love using my knowledge of the game and my instincts to try and find an edge. I love that. But can we bring in $5,000 to $10,000 a month profit by doing that? That's the question we're posing here on the show. But yes, that's what I want to do. I'm never going to try and, I don't want to code. I'm not going to try and write an algorithm that's going to do the handicapping for me. I'm not going to build a robot that's going to fuck bitches for me. Shouldn't call them bitches. Bang beautiful women for me. I love intuition and instincts and finding angles. It's the most fun. Guillermo says, not much of a sports capper, just the ponies. That's why I'm a LoBagger, because I was never pressured or asked for an affiliate. Okay. Tony Brewster says, Jimmy, I remember your first show. I'm a first responder here in Northern Illinois. When I get the chance, I have my AirPod in my ear listening to the show. I love your shows. Tony Brewster, thank you so much for what you are doing. It means so much to us. You're actually, saving lives and caring about people, and it means the world. And much love to you, Tony. Flipper says, who's Dennis and Gasson? I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. Sean B says, need more Loshak in my life. No offense. Well, how would that be any offense? How would that be any offense? We wouldn't all be here if it wasn't for Pete. I'm not getting that twisted. I will never get that twisted. The legend, Lodos Loshak, is the reason why this show is happening right now with all of us together. It's because of him. So I want you guys to want to watch Pete and want to support Pete. And I want Pete in our lives. Pompolo says, Jimmy, does your daughter live with you? Yes, she does. She's just in that room over there. We in Parkdale, son. Yeah, she does live with me. Okay. Ixnizzle, who also has 2 young kids and is a great capper, says, when it comes down, it's family. Family comes first, and no one is going to take food off my family's table. Cynthia says, we will get Loshak back. He just needs a bit of time. Christopher Comentini says, how much would you say we need to make per day to make this a living, Jimmy? I think $300. Christopher Comentini, it depends. It all depends. Do you have a car payment? Do you have a mortgage payment? Do you have children? Because if you have a few of those, are you going to be capping 7 days a week? Because if you cap, it's not a lot of money, man. $1,500 a week, let's say, if you just cap 5 of those days, because you need time to regroup, get your shit together, and think clearly. It's not enough money, Chris. It's just not enough money. Can we survive off $6,000 American a month? Definitely. Definitely. All right, let's see what Al says here. Al's had some great stuff. Al says, I think one of the easiest ways to get off kilter is to start listening to other opinions too much and changing your picks. I have to win or lose on my picks. That's such a great call, Al, because that happens to all of us. That happens to everybody here, everybody in the chat, everyone. Matt Randall says, I don't try to make a living off of betting sports. I bet sports to enjoy living that much more. $300 a day is $9K a month? No, it's not. 31 days. You're not going to work for 31 days. There's Sammy B in the house. Sammy B. And a spectacular capper from up here in the dot. Says, be disciplined, stick to your units. Don't just tail bets for the sake of doing it. Do your research, stick to the sports you know, understand, and have a better feel for it. I tell you what, after this COVID break, I'm changing my quantity of action drastically. Changing it drastically. drastically. Carlos Pro said, we love Pistol Pete. Von Polo says, I'm a manager at the post office, and I still find time to handicap sports that I like so I can make extra money. I love it. At Young Chillionaire says, Jimmy, I gamble for fun. You and the LoBaggers get me through my shift. Much respect. We all sacrifice for our families, but in different ways. I think it's beautifully put. Anthony Dalia says, I fully agree with what Al Cervic mentioned. Listen to too many isn't good. Only benefit is you know a true loser whose selections are horrible. You can go opposite, And says, years ago, I knew a true mush. This is wild stuff. There's Lily Gunn in the house. Says, Jimmy, I miss you so much. Lots of love to you and the LoBaggers. Lily Gunn, we miss you so much. I'm so glad that you are good and healthy. Thank you for stopping into the chat. Lily Gunn's husband, Tom Gunn, is the Vegas Gun Award that we give out for capping excellence. And we love Tom Gunn. He's not physically with us anymore, but he's such a part of everything that we do. And Lily is someone who means so much to us. So wonderful to see you in the chat, Lily. Makes me so happy. Lily Gunn in the house. Walter Scott says, you got to find your niche. May it be horse racing, college football, or now Serbian table tennis. Find out tendencies, handicap, find value. Don't be afraid. It's from our Walter Scott. The Maharishi says, oh, yes, I listen to you guys in my earbuds all day. It makes my work days bearable. Thank you all. Much love to you. There's Jojo Rich in the house. Von Polo says, I don't post my action because I don't want to lead nobody to the wrong direction. But I'm actually good at NBA and WNBA. I just don't post my action because I'm scared. I get that. Dan Kelly says, something about bet size. The best cappers in the world will lose 10 bets in a row. When that happens, it has to be nearly meaningless because of proper bet size. That's such a very, very, very important point. Such an important point. I guess to put a bow on this whole discussion, and as soon as this video is over, I'm going to do some more work on the draft. Painstaking. But I'm going to break down this Gulfstream card tomorrow. I'm going to break down this Oaklawn card tomorrow. I don't know if we've ever had a losing Thursday on this show because we only focus on those two cards. I think Remington comes up at 7. And I can't wait. I can't wait to cap those two cards. I can't wait. I've been cashing out. I cashed out a little over $1,000. I was up 1.3K last week in the horse racing. I've got $291 in my horse racing account. I could lose it all. Nothing changes. Buying for another couple hundred. Who cares? I don't need the money. I want the money, but I don't need it. My life doesn't depend on it. I'm not going to be feeding Ella through it. I'm not going to be paying my rent through my HBI account. But it will add to my life if I cash it. All I want to do is cap with you guys. Cap in situations where my whole life doesn't depend on Chris Kunitz scoring the game winner in the 2017 Eastern Conference Final. What does that mean about me? Does it mean I'm not a professional sports bettor? I guess so. Do I ever want to be one? Sure. Yeah, I'd like a $250,000 bankroll. I'd like my bets to be between 1% and 3%. I want to learn from the mistakes I was making in Costa Rica, betting too many plays. But I needed the action. I was alone down there. I went home to an empty apartment and a bottle of JMO. It was a mistake. And looking back at it, because that's what COVID has done for us, has given us this break from everything. Yeah, it was a mistake. I was selfish. I was betting in a unit size that wasn't affecting my life negatively or positively. I was betting as much as I possibly could, as many bets as I could because I needed the action. And I'm going to change that moving forward. But what do I want to do? I want to cap my fucking ass off. I want to beat this Oaklawn card. I want to attack this Gulfstream card. I want to come tomorrow morning with you guys so pumped up, so excited. I want to pull out a Leche beer after a big winner. And I want to cap with you guys. And I don't want my life to be on the line whether I succeed or not. I don't have a bankroll where I could possibly be a professional sports bettor right now. That's just the facts. What do I want to do? I want to enjoy my life. How am I going to do it? By betting on these sports, because it makes me happier than anything else, with a unit size that's not going to change anything. And someday, I hope I have a bankroll big enough where I can start making more meaningful bets. But right now, I just want to cap. That's what it comes down to. Man, it is an enormous treat capping with you guys and having these discussions with you guys. This is the first one we've done. That's how we do series. Episode 1. Can you make a living as a professional sports bettor? Man, I love you guys. Thank you for joining us. Next week, next episode, should you buy picks? Man. Jordan Kane says, I'm a chef in England, so it's always hard to chat in these shows with the time difference, meaning I'm at work. But you better believe I'm always here. Much love to you, Jordan Kane. David Hutton says, tell you what, Jimmy, you are helping me enjoy my life. David Hutton, I love you, man. You've been with us since one. You're an OG. There is Shy Archie in the house. Shy Archie. I love it, Shy Archie. Oh, man. Paul Thompson, I believe we've got through that. But I tell you what I'm never going to ever ask you to do is sign up for a YouTube account so that we can have more eyeballs on what we're doing. Not sign up for it, but subscribe to a YouTube account so we can have more eyeballs on what we're doing. Yeah, I'm going to ask you guys to do that. But I'm never going to ask for a cent. Never going to sell you anything ever in my life. Ever. So I'm happy we got through that, Paul. Because I want to hammer the horses with you tomorrow. Connor McLaughlin. Trot Wham will be live and in person tomorrow night. Tomorrow night with our live draft extravaganza. D-Boss. We have David Boston. 8th overall pick in the 99 draft, telling us which wide receiver he would draft. How many wide receivers he thinks will go in the first round. Rod Zowacki says, I'm betting very, very light on this draft. It's not bets that are going to make you rich, because if sports around, would we really be betting crazy like this on NFL draft? I hear you. Matt Randall says, my daughter Brinley says hi. Please say hi to her, Matt. And I can't wait till we can get our families back together. Brooklyn Funk Project in the house. Al Cervic, at Young Chillionaire, Christopher Comatini, Gerald Jones, Sammy B, Lanil Len, West Coast, Tony Brusher, Albert Ross, Bad Beat, Jimmy Gomez, Catch Caleb, Gerardo Hernandez, Flipper 13, Boston Nick, Ick Schnizzle, Lanil Land, Von Polo, Catch Caleb, Julian Cesario. Got Julian Cesario in the house. I love you guys. Episode 1 is in the books. I'm going to be grinding for the next 5 hours. I'll be up at 6:30 in the morning grinding my ass off. You know why? Because we've been in the black 6 of the last 7 days with the horses. You think it's not going to go 7 of the last 8? Yeah, baby. I'm going to get that cash tomorrow, and I hope you guys will join me. And then at night, we get the NFL draft. So a little semblance of just talking about NFL will make us feel like the world's coming back together. Thank you guys for joining us. First episode of That's How We Do. And we can't do it without these incredible comments from the chat. So much love to you guys. And as always, Leche, hey, those bookmakers, let's get that cash. Let's enhance our lives. That's what it comes down to. Let's make our lives better. Respect.